Entrepreneurs must be visionary thought leaders, creative, and most importantly, must be able to manage situations. Mr. Charu Sharma, CEO of Mashal Sports, our next speaker who would deliver the closing keynote address, topic, Sporting Expectations, is an example of all these qualities. Sports industry in India is estimated over $100 billion. It wasn't probably even 1/100th of it when Mr. Charu Sharma chose to be a sports business professional. That's why I call him a visionary. He created Pro Kabaddi League. Do you want a testimony for creativity? And I'm sure you would have noticed on TV at least what happened with the IPL auction last year in February 2022, when Hugh Admeets collapsed during the auction. Within 10 minutes, there was Mr. Charu Sharma jumping in and taking over the auction. And how? It's like nobody's business. He just managed it so fluently. That's about managing situations. If you haven't watched that video on YouTube, you must. And Mr. Charu Sharma, an exemplary entrepreneur, a par excellence sports professional. You know him better than I do because probably you would be more sports enthusiast than I am. But a big fan of Mr. Charu Sharma. Sir, it would be an honor to have you deliver the closing keynote address. Sir, I would request Mr. Kishan, Professor Kishan, to kindly introduce Mr. Charu Sharma to the audience and also moderate the Q&A that would follow thereafter.
Thank you, Prashant sir. I think the introduction is already made. Nonetheless, there are some other informations wherein, as a sports person, even I was curious when I was going through his entire profile. Here we go with this, guys. Mayo College, Ajmer, St. Stephens, Delhi, Davidson College, North Carolina alumni. Charu Sharma began competing in sporting events at a very young age. He is a 6-time junior national springboard diving champion between 1970-76. School and college captain in diving, swimming, water polo, and gymnastics. All India Inter-University diving champion from 1976 to 1979. Bronze medalist at National Springboard Diving Championship 1978. Qualified for the Commonwealth Games, Edmonton, Canada in 1978. Nominated as an All-Southern Conference diver, USA in 1980. Among his many other serious sporting interests are First Division League cricket, golf, tennis, badminton, rugby, squash, basketball, rifle shooting, athletics, apart from being a serious rock climber and a mountaineer. He started his sports casting career in 1982 at the 9th Asian Games for the National Network of India and carried on to become the most respected multi-sports television commentator and anchor of the country. His versatility and knowledge about various sports can be gauged from the vast repertoire of major international and national events that he has commentated on and presented for various major television channels. These include cricket, swimming, diving, water polo, hockey, football, basketball, volleyball, motorsports, boxing, golf, sailing, badminton, tennis, athletics, snooker, billiards, kabaddi, gymnastics, chess, shooting, and wrestling so far. A long-standing sports management career peaked with the creation of Mashal Sports Private Limited, through which he conceived, founded, and conducted India's biggest and most successful sporting revolution, the Pro Kabaddi League. The inaugural edition of 2014 drew global attention and pole vaulted Kabaddi into becoming India's second most watched sport. The voice of Indian sport, he continues to work as a freelance sports anchor, commentator, sports management, and professional and voice-over artist. He regularly hosts awards, shows, corporate events, and lectures on teamwork and leadership. Here we go with Mr. Charo Sharma.
I'll help myself. Thank you. There are a few things I know about. One of them is microphone management. So I think I can do this. Thank you very much. I'm in a superb place here because my session was supposed to be 8 to 8:30. It's now 8:32. So maybe I'll say hello to everyone and we can all go have dinner, which is, I'm sure, something that you're all waiting for. Also in some other fabulous positions, but I'll get to that very soon. I have today the privilege of thanking, amongst many others, of course, Shobha, thank you. Mahesh, thank you. And another Mahesh, thank you. And also, of course, a man I admire, although I've met him, well, very infrequently, not just because he's one of the, can I use the word doyen of industries here in Mysuru, but also, to me, he exemplifies the humility that I cherish so much. So, Mr. Sudamma, wonderful to meet you again. My good friend, TVMP is also here, so I have to be a little careful what I say, but, and so many other friends. The other advantage I have right now, amongst many other advantages, the fact that I had thought of quite a few things to say in the short time that I thought I had. But I realized that because of the collective wisdom and experience and stature of all those who spoke before me, they've said just about everything I wanted to say. So I really have very little to add to that, but I do, in my commentator avatar, wish for one thing from you today, actually 2 or 3 things. But the first thing is that we had, which is a wonderful thing to do, a felicitation of those who have served industry and have lived their dreams in this part of the world to the fullest. Now, we had them up on stage and we felicitated them, but for Messrs. Vag, Mr. Ganpati may not be here, and Mr. Pai, can I ask you to do the one thing that I go wherever I go now? I'm sort of a champion, a crusader for this one thing that I'm going to ask you to do. Because if you come here, and many of you have the option of coming and saying things to people who, you know, large numbers facing you, it's a little disconcerting to have anything less than a heartfelt, loud, warm round of applause. So can we have that for these 3 gentlemen, please? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for indulging me, because, you know, we have many strengths as Indians, and I think a lot of people have said very good things and correct things about our intellect and about so many other things, which are pure, perhaps even unique Indian strengths. But one of our weaknesses is something that I deal with now. And I talk to a bunch of people and I say, please, whenever you're in a session like this, when you're in an award ceremony or whatever, you know, sometimes the camera also goes onto the audience, and you don't want to be when there's some big award or something being given out or some, you know, rousing matter happens and the cameras go to the audience, and it's just, it kills me to see more often than not, people just, you know, and the award goes to, and the camera goes to the audience and they're like, huh? So get with the plan. And of course, as we know, applause, because it involves the hands and the nerves and everything else, is great for circulation, right? So help yourself by applauding, not for me, for people who deserve it as we go along. Okay, thank you. See, I knew the collective wisdom and intelligence of Mysore will always be there. Now, I made also a few notes, which I don't normally. I come and sort of speak, you know, to people from the heart, and I love doing that. And I realized that almost everything I've written down has also been said by everybody before me. But it's difficult to have or tolerate the pressure of perhaps sharing the holy grail or the elixir of success. I mean, what am I here to do? Am I here to give you a magic mantra? It's a TiECon. We're obviously celebrating and encouraging and inspiring entrepreneurship. But is there any one formula? Lots of people talked about lots of wonderful attributes, criteria, but so much has to go into that pot of what could be called being a successful entrepreneur. And what is success anyway? Because it means different things to different people. So a lot of things have to be examined, but I would be very grateful if all the people still here, despite the long evening, thank you very much, by the way, for staying back. If you find one word, one phrase, one something, one thought, one idea that I shared with you, which is of use to you as you continue your journey of perhaps being entrepreneurs or not, it doesn't matter. Everybody doesn't have to be one, because then who would work? If everybody was an entrepreneur, who would you employ? So it's okay if you're not. But if you are, of course, what you probably need is something that's been talked about all evening long. And I have very few other mantras apart from that to share, but I might have a few stories. And if you want to listen to a few of those, I'm happy to do so. I was asked by Mahesh to actually talk about the Pro Kabaddi story. I'd love to do that, but you'll have to create a minimum of a full day session for me and feed me lunch and dinner and everything else, because it's a long story. Of course, there's a shorter version I'd love to share, maybe even tonight. Also, may I please request those who are making this session happen to also include a little Q&A if it's possible, because I really don't want this to be a one-way conversation. I'd love to be able to talk about something that you might want to hear about, because that's the best way of ensuring that at least one person here wants to know something that I'm happy to share some information or thought on. Not a solution maybe, but just some sharing of thoughts. Okay. What's convention all about? Because some conventional ways of entrepreneurship were talked about, and maybe all of them are right. Some of them are right. Most of them, all of them are right or correct. But I remember early in my career, I had to have a corporate career for quite a while, because you might have, I'm sorry about that long introduction. I do beg your pardon. We'll try and sort of snip it somewhere. I don't know, somewhere or the other, find your own ways. So all of my sporting achievements, if you want to call them that, or my involvement deeply with the world of competitive sport was largely in the 70s. Now, in the 70s, you couldn't earn a thing playing sport, not even cricket, nothing. So obviously, once I finished my sporting career, or my main sport, which was springboard diving, at the ripe old age of 19 or 20, that was it. I was honest enough to realize that it's not going to earn me anything anyway. So it's time to stop, because the only other people I was competing with were professionals in that sense, who had to join the services or the railways or the police, or, I mean, no disrespect to all these organizations, but they were the only people accepting sporting talent, and they were doing all of this full time. Well, I was still in college, so I could spare maybe 2 hours a day training, and they were training 8 hours a day. So it was a very unfair sort of scenario of competition. So I retired at the very ripe old age of 19 or 20. And of course, I had to get a corporate career, because that was, I was no entrepreneur. I'm still no entrepreneur. I feel like a bit of an imposter here. What am I doing? Standing and talking to people who are obviously, leading entrepreneurs in this part of the world or other parts of the world. But anyway, I have a life and some experiences to share. So maybe they're okay, if not the fact that I speak as an entrepreneur. The introduction was very, very generous, maybe too generous. But yes, I had to become one to get the Pro Kabaddi League going, because there was no way I could get that going if I did not start a company and become a quasi-entrepreneur, at least in the world of sport. But in the early days in my corporate career, we had a lecture by an advertising guru. Some of you may remember, he worked with many companies and then established Enterprise Nexus. Does somebody remember a name in the world of advertising? Who founded Enterprise Nexus? No, not here. No advertising pro here? Yeah, well, not Enterprise. That was Muhammad Khan. So anyway, Muhammad Khan came and gave us a lecture while I was working with BST Industries in Hyderabad. And it was on advertising, because we were on sales and marketing. Advertising is a big deal. And he went on for about 10 minutes about the really important tenets of what makes good advertising. Now, he was an advertising guru, and all of us listened very keenly, saying, advertising, here are the top 10 things. Must have a solid, bold headline. must have a beautiful photograph, visual, must have some this, must have that. And, you know, all the top 10 must-haves when you want to make a good ad. And we all sort of nodded and said, yeah, wow, makes sense. And then he said, okay, here are the examples of 10 of the most universally acclaimed adverts made around the world. And he went, click, 1. And it had virtually nothing of what he talked about. Just had a big green picture with some drops floating around and said at the bottom, in little tiny print, Heineken. So he said, where's the bold headline? Where's this? Where? Nothing. And I sometimes use this as an example because he showed 8 or 9 others, and they had very little to do with all the criteria he talked about. And I don't know what that has to do with this session, but it just goes on perhaps to offer a thought that sometimes, you know, we just use our unique abilities and get on with it. And therefore, in the wisdom of those who contact me, I get called to speak every once in a while and to various sets of people. And I do, in lighter vein, generally, I didn't use it this time, but I will now, maybe after 10 minutes of speaking. I say, all right, everybody, great to be here. Thank you very much. Let's all open our books to page number 49. And everybody says, what, you know? And that's exactly what I mean. And in the world of business, in entrepreneurship, in many other worlds of sport, there is no book. There is no encyclopedia. There is no page 49. There's no page 490. There's nothing. There's just you and your, I suppose I'll have to repeat some of the words that were said earlier because they are important words. You and your dream and your passion and your compassion and all the rest of the things put together, your knowledge, your intellect and everything else in your study of the market. So there's so many forces, so many things that you have to put into the crucible and stir and stir and stir and get on with it. The world of sport is no different. People dream so big is not funny. And so more often than not, and by the way, the so-called title of this short session, I was being pressured by Mahesh and a few others saying, what's the title? And I said, well, you know, you call me, I speak. But so we said, okay, sporting expectations. But I mean, I don't know what I'm saying is related to expectations or not, but so I'm sort of flying all over the place like a crazy rubber ball, right? Hitting this wall and coming back. But even that makes sense to me only, perhaps to some others, because some of the other sessions that I do get called for, I label them everything matters. And so people get really confused at times. But to me, it expresses what I actually feel. Everything matters. I want you to think about it for 5 seconds. Everything matters. It's not a bad philosophy if you think about it, because we tend to get so tunnel visioned in what we do, and no more tunnel vision than sports persons. Oh boy, they get really tunnel visioned. Get up in the morning, train hard, eat, sleep, train hard, tunnel visioned. And many sports persons around the world, certainly in our part of the world, then lose out on so much else that life has to offer because they get constrained with their own picture of tunnel visioning their sporting dreams. That how many people can really reach the top? Again, I'm bouncing like a crazy ball. How many people? I mean, is there a world champion, carpet design? Is there, where's the competitiveness? Where's the accolade? Where's the result? You can say, okay, maybe turnover, and there's so many other criteria, I suppose, but it takes time for any organization or entrepreneur. But in sport, it's brutal. Right there, right then, there's a decision, there's a result, and you win, or essentially, terrible word, you lose. Or worse still, you fail, and it's immediate. So sports persons get very tunnel vision, and they lose out on so much else going around in life. And a lot of sports persons who don't reach the very top, in other words, they maybe fail to make a career or a livelihood out of their own sport, land up being very, I hate to use these sharp words, but, depressed people, distressed people, despairing, saying, well, I spent 15 years of my life playing this sport so hard. I gave it everything. I was tunnel vision. And look at me now. I've done nothing my way. And so they kind of get into a self-fulfilling whirlpool where they'll end up saying, sorry about the Hindi, main to sirf sports fan hu, main kya janta hu, which is a terrible thing imagine the lack of self-worth there or self-belief eventually when you don't make it right to the top. And so a lot of the times I go around, particularly talking to young people who have sports in their mind, that listen, you've got to realize that even trying to make a career in the world of sport provides you with some of the most important attributes of this ephemeral thing called success. And we know what these general attributes are. There's hard work and diligence and perseverance and, yada, 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 all these things that go on to make a really successful career in any career path. So I'm busy telling these sports persons, listen, you've got to realize that you have what it takes to be a success or the potential to succeed in anything you might want to do. If you have not made it to your dream in your own sport. So please don't undervalue yourself. Please don't let your self-worth or self-belief drop just because you haven't reached where you thought you may reach, because you, along the way, gained so many important attributes. Why is that perhaps relevant to this gathering? It's because entrepreneurship is a bit like sport. It takes a little longer to find out. My PR friend, are you still there? Yeah? Somebody? Didn't quite work in the PR? Little question earlier on. Anyway, if you're, thank you. Sit, relax, take it easy. Yeah, so you might, find out only much later, not at the end of one badminton match or one tennis match or one, chess game or one game of cricket. You get out on zero. Surya Sky now, Surya Kumar Yadav can't score a run to save his life. But so it might take you a little longer to maybe realize, God forbid, that you haven't quite reached where you wanted to reach in the world of entrepreneurship. But look at the lessons learned. Extremely valuable in anything else that you might want to do, or repeat. Say, I'll do it again. And those who are successful, great. Successful as in by your own standards, because of course, if you keep trying to weigh success with others' standards, it's all over anyway. So it's your own standard, your own life, your own criteria, your own situation in life. And that leads me to another very important point, because I'm once again jumping around like a crazy rubber ball. This whole business of knowing who you are. To me, I mean, our Indian spiritual gurus and our saints and everybody else, they keep talking about knowing who you are. It might sound very simple, but it's the most difficult thing in life, to really know who you are. And of course, you also keep changing. So you got to keep pace all the time with who am I? What am I? And if there is any magic mantra in the world to calm you, to make you feel I'm in a very good space, I might have only, 10 rupees in my pocket or whatever, current contemporary equivalent, but I'm in a good space. And that mantra is only because you know yourself. Because too many people are trying to do too many things, or trying to become too many things, which they are essentially perhaps not suited for. Now, how do we know that? There's no barometer. You can't just go and say, I'm that. You got to keep finding out. And so please do spend as much time as you can on trying to discover who you really are. And that'll free you. It's the most stress-relieving discovery on earth, to know who you really are. Do I want to be a billionaire, but have a little some, food here, then the other, and walk around in clothes that are 10 years old? I'm fine with that. Or am I wanting to chase some other visible sign of material success? Who am I? What am I? And if you do get fortunate to be pretty close to discovering who you really are, well, you're a success already. And then hopefully you'll get where you want to be, because that will be pragmatic, that will be real, and that will be who you are. So I don't know if I'm making sense. I hope I am. Everybody before me certainly made a lot of sense. So just add a little bit of this to all of that and we'll get moving. The Pro Kabaddi story really, it's a very long one. Mahesh, why did you even, but anyway, it was just a question of respect. So that's a strange word, right? It wasn't an entrepreneurial journey. It was, and in many ways still continues to be, a journey to just bring respect to what is ours. For most sports, if you want to become better in volleyball, there's a tour to Italy or Brazil. You want to get better in weightlifting, you go to Bulgaria, somewhere else. You want to get better in fast bowling, you go to the Australian Academy, or Cricket Academy, or whichever other sport, you go somewhere else in the world. Neeraj Chopra is currently training where? Not quite. Yeah, I think he's in Europe right now, but outside of India. However, there is one international sport, because back in 1990, the Hiroshima Asian Games, Kabaddi became a more or less widely accepted international sport, because the Asian Games are the second biggest sporting extravaganza past the Olympics. And India wins gold regularly and what have you. But the sport just had no respect within our own nation. And I don't mean to be speaking for all of you, but I suspect I am. Nobody really cared about it. And that bothered me in my journey, because again, it began as a commentator. I was called to commentate on Kabaddi at the Asian Games of Doha in 2006. And that's the start of a very long story. So somewhere along the way, I'll keep compressing it madly. And there are many details in the middle that will be left. But for Kabaddi, which became an international sport and other countries played in various parts of the world, certainly Asia because of the Asian Games. It's the only sport that I know, and you may name a few more, and I'm, of course, very happy to accept that I don't know everything about sport. I'm trying to get there. Kabaddi is the only sport that other countries that play Kabaddi or want to become better come to India to train. That's a pretty big thing. We are the center of the Kabaddi universe. And other nations know that. They want to improve their standards. They come to India. They seek time with some smaller teams or with some whatever, some states, some coaching, some whatever. And so we win these golds of the Asian Games and we come back and people don't give, can I use the word damn? I say, so what? Now, you might remember that, or some of you, many of you are very closely related to sport, that one of the most sporting nations in the world, I mean, they are deep, desperate for sport, is Australia. Right? Small nation, plenty of land, plenty of availability, plenty of DNA. They are mad keen sports persons. What is the most popular, important, respected, widely watched, applauded sport in Australia? Not rugby. Somebody say it louder. Thank you. Aussie rules. Yeah. It's a no contest. I mean, cricketers would walk around the streets, people say, "Hado yaar." But Aussie rules, oh my God, you know. How many other countries play serious Aussie rules football? None. Yeah. Do the Australians really care that the rest of the world is not playing, that Africa is not playing, that Norway is not playing, Russia is not playing? Who cares? This is our sport. We're good at it. We're great at it. We love it. We give it all the respect, all the popularity, all the commercial success, whatever you need. I use that only as a small, perhaps silly example. But okay, Kabaddi is our sport. It's our true blue, unique, heritage, competitive, full contact sport. Unique. And then you come back, of course, by the way, Karnataka is a very big center. And one of the biggest tournaments I first attended before the league, just to be able to get more familiar with the sport, was in Mandya. So, Karnataka is very up on its kabaddi, and Mysore too. But I met the Korean Secretary General of the International Kabaddi Federation, amongst the many other journeys that I was taking before 2014, when the league finally got underway. And there was this meeting in Delhi, and he was around, and I was trying to sort of plug and pump for this, league, and everybody was sort of basically, as we say in cricket, leg glancing me. Harabai. So anyway, I met him, and he said, "I'm glad you're doing all of this, but I saw in the hotel downstairs Rakesh Kumar at that point. This is 2012 or whatever, and he's like a double Asian Games gold medalist." And this is the Korean speaking. And he said, and he was just waiting in the reception, walking on the road, just, nobody knew him. Nobody was coming up to him. He wasn't mobbed. What's going on in your country? A double Asian Games gold medalist in Korea would be like, people would just not let him live, just throng him and say, wow, big hero. So just one small example to circle back to the word respect. And we lack that for some strange reason. Of course, I heard many, many reasons from other people saying, oh, well, who plays kabaddi? America doesn't play it. So America doesn't make great dosas. What about the Mysore dosa? Yeah. So we need to just respect our own as well. And so what if we were from Mysore and not from New Delhi, or where's Mr. Sharma, or Jaipur, or wherever else? We're from Mysore, and we respect our own entrepreneurs. And everything else that happens in Mysore. By the way, be careful what you wish for, because if Mysore is going to turn into a Bangalore, I don't know. Because for the moment, it's still one of the cleanest and finest cities to live in. But to have another 5 million people turn up, I don't know, not going to be easy. But okay, I thought I'd kind of share a few thoughts with you. And time flies, for me at least, if not for you. So I don't know whether I should continue on with the many sporting stories, or about the world of entrepreneurship, where I feel a bit of an imposter. But we did start a company, and we were very fortunate after 4 years of pounding the pavement. Everywhere? Of course not. I only pound whatever pavements I could reach. But it was a really rough experience. My tryst with entrepreneurship, because this wasn't an ordinary, I wouldn't say ordinary, this wasn't a regulation industry. Sport is tough enough in India anyway. And then to start something that required commercial support for a sport such as kabaddi, you can imagine, I lost a lot of friends. And a lot of people were, oh my God, Charu Sharma's in my office with that bloody kabaddi. Tell him I'm not here, because, it's not going to work. It's just madcap stuff. But maybe it's a small example of however difficult, or all entrepreneurial activities are difficult, however left field, however, what's the word here? Untrodden a path that you may wish to take in your entrepreneurial journey, just keep at it. Because luckily our cost of living in the country is always going to turn up with what our, again, I use our spiritual world in India, where they say and claim, and they're not wrong, what do we really need to survive or to live? Generally considered in Hindi, I beg your pardon again, do roti, do dhoti. That we'll always make, that we'll always get. So if you do have some kind of if you're really keen to get something going, just keep going for it. And if you don't have the skill to get 2 rotis, you may be in a little bit of trouble. But come on, keep going for it. And we may have a little bit of time, even though we're desperately late, but we've asked for the food to be held and not heated. So don't worry, it's not cooling. It's not even there yet. Actually, you don't know that. but it may have actually been laid out. But if there's anything after my crazy ball, rubber ball, half an hour, well, 25 minutes, that somebody might want to actually know a little more about in a very concise answer to a very concise query, we may actually have the time for that. Or do we? Can I ask somebody who's in charge? We do or we don't? We do? Thank you very much for your generosity.
Good evening, Charu. It was
There's only one caveat. We got to keep people awake between the two of us. Okay.
I just wanted to know at what point did you start believing that kabaddi would work? I mean, taking kabaddi to that level would work. What was the catalyst?
And I try and always speak what I mean, because communication is my business from day one. Because what do I know about this world? I know sport and I know television. And I just knew then that kabaddi presented well on television will work. What threw me off was just how long it would take. And the fact that I am not generally seen much on the upper level cricket commentaries of upper level international cricket is something that I feel bad about once in a while. And just a kid, or in lighter vein, when people say, "Yaar, aajkal tum dikh nahi rahe ho." Or, we used to sort of, people come and say, "My father, my parents," used to listen to you. I'm saying, "Gosh, I've been away that long or what?" But so I say in lighter vein sometimes, hey, even I miss myself. But so I had to give up a lot of work to get this going. And luckily, my wife could provide the 2 rotis and 2 dhotis, so I was okay. But it took me 4 years of running around, just because I knew that if I could just get it going, it would do well. And I'll end with a dramatic sentence. And from the first day of the Pro Kabaddi League, which was, I will never forget. Some of you may remember when I come back a few years later and ask you a quiz question. The 26th of July, 2014 in Mumbai, the first day of the first show of the Pro Kabaddi League, immediately turned it into India's second most watched sport. So.
Thank you so much.
Very good evening, Charisharma. Thank you
Yeah,
for
so
sharing.
I just one thing though. I don't consider myself anything, but perhaps some people say I'm a bit of a storyteller. So once again, let's be careful what we wish for, because we could be here
Your storytelling
pretty long. So
story-
yeah, please somebody tell me, or as you know,
storytelling is equally important for every entrepreneurs in their journey. So thanks for sharing your experiences. Now, my point is, like, I think you connect the sports and the entrepreneurship together. The stats says that 80%, 90% entrepreneurs having one or the other sports background. That's why they are been in the entrepreneurial ecosystem. And another important aspect you raise is the respect in the sports. Similar to that, entrepreneurs also feel the shortcoming of that in the ecosystem. So what is your take on that? Like, what time or maybe an ecosystem needs to put that on the map? How the entrepreneurs get that to respect
wow,
like other space?
that's a little complicated. Sports people are actually looking for respect because their field is visible. They're all out there. And a lot of them work for some revenue, but they also work for visibility and, if I can use that terrible word called fame. However, the world of entrepreneurship to me is different, because it is all the things that the very accomplished entrepreneurs before me spoke about. It's much more about the journey, it's much more about the creation of wealth. It's much more about keeping personal ethics and governance in line. And all those wonderful things that I talked about, had everybody else not talked about it. So to me, again, you have to be true to yourself. It's my usual passion versus wealth curve. I want to sound like a mathematician here, which I'm not, just about past. But there's an X and Y and all that sort of thing. And if I could draw it, I would, but I'll just do it with my fingers if you don't mind. So I say that if you want to follow your passion, it could be an entrepreneurial activity. Usually, of course, the world of sport or music are the 2 big passion areas. And people begin on the lowest level of revenue. And if you're following your passion and what you really want to be or do, then it may remain a very low angle curve till you're no more on this earth. So you say, my whole life, I began at 10,000 rupees. I'm ending it inflation adjusted at 10,000 rupees. So I tell people who want to follow their passion, did you really want to follow your passion? Or did you just want to be rich? So there are many ways of getting rich. Most of them are maybe, if they're too good to be true, they are too good to be true. So if you want to be rich, that's different. If you want to be visible as an entrepreneur, that's different. If you want a 30-story building that's your own home, that's different. Or where do people want to go with their wealth? So, entrepreneurs don't, to my mind, don't need to seek that respect from society and everything else. They want to do what they're doing. And if they're not visible, that's fine.
No, absolutely. I slightly rephrase that.
Exactly. So it was a confusing question.
To the kabaddi, which you mentioned, is that in the Indian context, especially now we are talking about the startup ecosystem, we wanted to encourage the youngsters going on, taking the journey. If you see the comparative, how the analogy was given, the respect to the sports with respect to kabaddi, same thing also when somebody wanted to start, there's a big challenge there because it's not been well accepted in our culture.
Yeah, but respect will come. I mean, as your entrepreneurial journey moves on, if you do need respect, it comes with what people generally call material success in the world of entrepreneurship. So it'll happen. But I mean, if that's your deal, you really need to know who you are. If you just want respect or what, I don't know. I mean, get a big car or some, other such nonsense kind of, visible stuff. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but it'll happen in the world of entrepreneurship as well. And you need to just have quiet confidence, I mean, to be all out there, if that's your thing, fine. But I see that, in keeping with the ethos of Mysuru, I do think the general successful entrepreneur in this part of the country, thankfully, just wants to create wealth, to have a successful running organization, and still walk from here to there, which is not disrespectful. So it's all in the eyes of others. Sport is different because you want to be seen out there. There are endorsements. There are many other kind of factors that come in, perhaps not in the world of entrepreneurship. And I'm sorry if I'm not really grabbing what you said, but okay. Yes, madam. You don't need a microphone. Your voice can be heard easily everywhere. Okay.
Right.
I've been told last 3 questions.
Thank you for that. All right. Wonderful listening to some of the insights that you were sharing.
I haven't even started yet.
Okay. So let me get you started. You started off with, when you thought about kabaddi, there was the heritage part of it. And there was also the fact that this is a sport that is not known. As per your hypothesis, what do you think has taken pro kabaddi to the level that it has gone to? Is there a role that the heritage part of it that you alluded to plays a role, or is it what you just spoke about, which is the visibility, the showcase and all of it?
Thank you.
Between the two of them, what do you think has played a deeper connect?
The worst kind of answer usually is both. But I will say that the heritage played a role, and which is one of the many reasons I actually pursued or carried on with the project, is because I truly felt it's in our DNA. It's who we are collectively, kabaddi. And even though it had been overshadowed by lots of other glitz and lots of other distractions, when it was showcased in its new, modern, competitive, sophisticated avatar, people will look at it differently, with a different glint in their eye, and yet they will view it as something that is ours. So it was a combination of both. But it was ours, it is ours, it will remain ours, but it would have remained deep inside somewhere in a tiny corner of our brain had it not been brought out in what one had envisioned as this new, spanking, competitive, sophisticated, visible, internationally presented avatar. So that was important as well. Otherwise, people would have been so quick to dismiss it, saying, yeah, it's our game, but I mean, so it was important to add that internationalism because, as an audience now, we watch sport in its most sophisticated avatar on television day in and day out. That is our expectation. If you watch cricket or hockey or whatever, football, you're watching the best in the world, produced in the best possible fashion in the world. And you can't have a badly produced, show because people will just not accept it. So the production standards and everything else also had to be absolutely, international, world class. That was important as well. I hope it makes sense. Okay, well, I can compete against many things, but I can't compete against hunger and appetite. So, by the way, TV, you've lost a lot of weight. I'm very impressed. Okay, a big thank you to everybody once again. And of course, the epitome of humility, Mr. Sudhamma, thank you so much for having me here. And a big thank you to our lifetime achievers. Thank you so much for leading Mysore into wonderful ways of success and humility. And I will now be very happy to leave this microphone, which is one of my better friends over many years now. But thank you very much. Good evening. Thank you for calling me. Oh, sure.
Thank you very much, sir. May I request Mr. Sudhanva to kindly come onto the stage? And, sir, yeah. A small token of our appreciation and gratitude, sir, for your time and some wonderful insights. Know your worth, know who you are, provide respect where it is due. Thank you very, very much, sir. Thank you very, very much, sir. Greatly appreciated. Thank you, sir. All right, ladies and gentlemen, what a wonderful day we had. Such invigorating, exhilarating talks, discussions. Oh my God, there was so much content, so much knowledge we could gather in the 3 hours that we spent here today. Thank you very much, audience, for your wonderful presence here, gracious presence. Thank you very, very much, all the speakers and panelists. We had a wonderful, wonderful day. Same tomorrow, I'm sure. We have stalwarts, wonderful speakers again. We have Mr. Mohandas Pai, Mr. B.V. Naidu, Mr. Ramesh Kannan, who are here today as well, who will be speaking tomorrow. We have again panel discussions. We have giving away of the awards or the prizes for the winners of the TiE University Pitch Fest. Lot of action tomorrow. I request you to stay on for tomorrow as well and encourage TiE with all your presence and grace. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening. The dinner is out there. Signing off. Thank you very, very much. Good night.